Right.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the Vanguard. I am Matt Wright, and together you and I are going to be traversing the muddied waters of freedom. Hope everybody's having a fantastic Tuesday. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope it's been a wonderful first week. The first week of November is done. We are almost in December, ladies and gentlemen. And, I, for one, cannot wait for this year to finally end. This has been quite easily one of the worst years of my life, and I cannot wait for it to be over, done with, finished, finito, and we can move on to 2024. A couple of things real quick before we get into the news and everything. For anybody who's interested in my own personal struggles, I am still sober. So I got that going for me, which is nice. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got on that. In other news, I relaunched the Muddy Waters subscription program. And I know that we used to say things on the show like for less than the cost of 2 lattes a month, you can get all of this fantastic Muddied Waters, what the crap ever we used to say. So now, instead of saying that, what we can say is for less than $3 a month, you can get all of the Muddied Waters specials, all of the back catalog. You get all of it. $3 a month. Everything Muddied Waters has ever made and put out can be yours. It will all come directly to your phone, and you can have it all. Plus anything new that we are putting out in the future. $3 a month. You won't get a better deal than that literally anywhere on the internet. So if you guys want to subscribe, head on over to anchor.fm/muddiedwaters and figure out how to do the subscribe thing there. Head on over. You can subscribe there. $3 a month. You're going to get all of the back catalog. You're going to get all of the specials. You're going to get every subscriber only that has ever been made, and anyone that is made here in the future. You will also get access to longer episodes once I start figuring out how to do those things So be on the lookout for all of those things, and there's a lot of cool stuff that's going to be happening. Also, I am now in the market for a couple of things. One, I'm looking for new employment. I have made the mental decision that I am done with the state of Florida. For anybody that knows everything going on in my life, you can probably understand why. And much to the behest of my parents, who don't want me to leave this state, I am done. And I am looking for a new place to go. There's a few things that I am definitely looking for, which lowers the amount of places that I will eventually end up in. It's pretty much going to be Tennessee or Texas. If you want to pitch to me why I should move to one of those two places, knock yourself out. And if you know of anybody looking for an instructional designer that wants to work, that can work remote, let me know on that too, because I would like to get out of here as soon as possible. So hope everybody had a fantastic weekend, as I said, and let's get into the news. This episode is brought to you by Mudwater. Mudwater is a coffee alternative, as well as the most aptly named sponsor for this show ever, with 1/7 of the caffeine as a regular cup of coffee. It's made with masala chai, cacao, mushrooms, turmeric, sea salt, cinnamon, and that is it. And I know what you're thinking, Matt. You are somebody who loves caffeine. Why would you be hawking for a company that is advertising less caffeine? And that's because it worked. It's true. I love caffeine. I used to drink 2 energy drinks a day, and now I might have one a week. All thanks to Mudwater. If you or someone you love might want to make the switch to Mudwater, all you have to do is head on over to muddiedwatersofreedom.com/mud to make the switch today. And that brings us to the Mudwater Mushroom Coffee Rapid, the Mudwater Mushroom Coffee Replacement Cacao Rapid Fire segment, brought to you by Mudwater. Happy daylight savings time, everybody. This is actually the happy one because you feel like you got that extra hour of sleep, but that just means that coming around the corner is the terrible one, the awful one in which more car crashes happen the day after, more suicides happen the day after than like any other day of the year. And this is all because the government believes it is smarter than the earth and tries to make up, tries to make days longer, than by moving an hour from one end of the day to the other end of the day. And only the government could be so daft in believing that, yes, they could do something that stupid. But do we know where this actually started from? If you know where this came from, put it in the comments. Here on Rumble. But do you know where daylight savings time kind of got its start? Because most people think that they know this, and the answer is not what you think it is. I found this out last year, and I may have talked about it, but initially this was the brainchild of Benjamin Franklin, and obviously, this had to be once the syphilis had rotted his brain and began eating away all of his common sense. But the reason he wanted this to start was because he figured if we could have the light last longer into the day, we could save money on candle wax and lamp oil. So this policy that America uses started to save oil. We were trying to liberate the oil from the lamps. And even though Ben Franklin came up with the idea and the idea was for oil, it wasn't used until later. It didn't come into use until later. It was in 1918 it was enacted in order to save fuel because Wilson decided that fuel was necessary for World War I. So the policy that we now live under that causes multiple deaths and suicides every year, that causes it to either get dark at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, like it is now, or having it get dark at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock during the summer, like it will, is from a policy that was intended to have us save oil and was to make things more ready for war. Because we needed to be ready for those things. Just your fun little piece of trivia for today. So good news last week, because this man, Sam Bankman Fried, was found guilty on all counts. Now, many of you probably wonder why I used this picture of Sam Bankman Fried as opposed to the courtroom sketch. And honestly, I kept seeing mixed reports on the courtroom sketch on whether or not the courtroom sketch was a real sketch or whether or not it was a fake AI generated thing. I believe it's AI generated, and that the courtroom sketch artist did not do that because the image did not look anything like that. Nobody would have hero worshipped that dude that hard. Nobody's simping for Sam Bankman Fried that hard outside of the Democrat Party. So he was found guilty on all 7 counts of fraud and conspiracy last Thursday. So the FTX founder, who went from being the media darling and hero of the left for saying he was going to be a billionaire that thought about the other people, and he was going to take things with compassion and try to fix the issues that he saw that we were having in society with his money, went from he went from all of that to a step below Bernie Madoff in less than 4 years, and could be sentenced up to 110 years in prison. And when I realized that it was less than 4 years, I was like, that can't be right. That couldn't have been less than 4. It was 4 years. He founded the company in 2019. In 2019, he founded the company, and we are now in November of 2023, and he was found guilty on 7 counts. He only had FTX up and running for 3 years before everything came crashing down. So he started FTX in 2019. By 2022, he was donating over $70 million of multiple people's money who he had been swindling away from them to Democratic candidates and Democratic PACs. The arrogance of SBF was just absolutely palpable, because he did not think that he was going to end up getting prosecuted by the people that he personally funded into office. In 2022, he was the second largest donor to the Democrat Party. The second largest donor to the Democrat Party. And he ended up getting arrested, and Merrick Garland praised the way that he was arrested and the way that he was convicted in such a rapid fire case. Absolutely unbelievable. He is now looking at 110 years. 110 years, which is going to be, he's not going to spend 110 years in prison. It's going to be less. And there are people out there who are going to say, oh, well, he obviously knows things about the Democrat Party. He knows things about Democrat Party, Democrat donors, Democrat candidates. So he's going to get less, because he could potentially testify against, any number of people. I think those people are giving him way too much credit. I think this dude is a mong, and he is a straight mong. Absolutely nothing about this person screams to me, I understand how to utilize any sort of information correctly. That's not ones and zeros. I don't think he knows much. Like, who is trusting this man with that kind of information? He invented a business. He invented a business that was valued at $32 billion. He got the valuation up to $32 billion in less than a presidential term. He was convicted for fraud. He couldn't keep that lie going for the amount of time Joe Biden has been in office. He does not scream, important people are going to confide in me my deepest, darkest secrets. That's not something that's going to be happening with him. The dude is a puppet. He was a tool, like literally, he was a tool in every single possible way. Massive tool. And he was a tool for the Democrats. He was an absolute tool for the Democrats, and he has outlived their usefulness. And he outused the usefulness of them and the system that he helped prop up. He's gonna get less than 110 years. Probably, like, if I had to guess, he's going to end up with roughly 25 years. And it's not going to be because he testified against him, or because he flipped for the prosecution or anything like that. But he's going to get 25 years, or possibly a little bit less, because he's the soldier. He is the soldier that they needed him to be when they needed him most. Because the Republicans were thought to be looking at 242 seats in the House and 53 seats in the Senate. Like, it was supposed to be a red wave according to all available matrix. It wasn't going to be close. Now, the Republicans shot themselves in the foot with people like Herschel Walker and Dr. Oz up there in in Pennsylvania, but and they ran a ton of terrible House candidates, and a lot of that was the fault of the leading Republican candidate for president. But the reason that they were able to win, the reason that the Democrats were able to win, was largely because of how well funded a lot of those campaigns were in the areas where they knew that it was going to be close. Sam Bankman Fried helped with that. He is a big reason why the Republicans only have a eight seat majority in Congress, and the reason that the Democrats still have the Senate. A big portion of that is the funding that came from SBF. So he did what they needed him to do. He was the person that they needed him to be in this scenario. He's going to get all of the benefit of going to prison. He's not going to go there for a long time, but they're not going to let him out because he did end up basically losing $36 billion in 3 years. 3 years, $36 billion disappeared at the hands of SBF. So they're not going to let him get away with that. Now, since he helped out so much with the 2022 elections, and yeah, the Republicans were supposed to win. They were supposed to win huge that night. I miscalled so many different races that night, and a lot of that was because I did not realize how red Florida had gotten between 2020 and 2022. I did not realize how red Florida had become, because the county that I live in now, that I can so desperately not wait to leave. The county that I live in now is famous for being kind of the bellwether county. Like it is such a diverse mix of people from all over the nation. However, this county votes traditionally is how the country votes. So if it goes red, that means the country's going red. If it goes blue, that means the country's going blue. So when Anna Paulina Luna won handily in Pinellas County, I assumed wrongly that the rest of the nation was going to be going red. We all know that didn't happen. Like the Republicans won, but they definitely did not win the way they should have won. Not with the way the economy was, not with the way inflation was, not with the way spending was. And the Republicans had a lot to do with the spending and the inflation and the economy, because they were also there 4 years, 2 years, 6 years before that. But that's just the way that voters have very short memories. A lot of that could be because we vote every 2 years, and that's why they have a 93% rate of being reelected, because they're like, oh, well, I can get it this 2 years. I can get it this 2 years. But because of the way the election systems work, we are now, today is election day. I kind of forgot about that because we didn't have anything to vote on here. But today is election day. But that means that we are 1 year out from the 2024 elections. And the Democrats are absolutely terrified about what they are looking at. We are 1 year out. Democrats absolutely terrified, because in a recent New York Times Siena poll of battleground states, Biden is polling behind Trump in 5 out of 6 battleground states. 5 out of 6 battleground states, Donald Trump is leading Joe Biden. So as you can see here in this graphic, if you're listening on audio, thank you so much. You're how I make the most money. Trump is up on Biden, 11 in Nevada. It says 10 on the graphic, but I can do math in my head, and that's definitely 11. 6 in Georgia, 5 in Arizona, 5 in Michigan, 4 in Pennsylvania, and he is down 2 in Wisconsin. Now, this poll has to be absolutely terrifying for the Democrats, for Joe Biden, for his campaign team, because they are going all in on Biden. They've pretty much canceled the primaries. We talked about it last week. that they're kind of doing a primary, but they're not doing it. Like they're not holding any they're not holding any debates. They're kind of just going to let Biden waltz right back in. And the fact that they're starting it out in South Carolina because they wanted South Carolina to give Biden the big win, it might turn out to blow up in their faces big time, because according to this poll, Donald Trump is pulling 22% of black voters. 22% of black voters. And while that might not sound like a ton to your average person, that is an absolute stunning amount to anybody. That is the best that somebody outside of Alabama has done since the Civil Rights since the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And George Wallace, and the last time he ran for governor, got 90% of the black vote in Alabama. You can look that up. It's 100% true. The man that they've painted as the racist face of the South got 90% of the black vote in the last year that he ran for governor. But it is absolutely terrifying. And they're going to put South Carolina as the first state because they wanted to show how the black voters were going to turn out for Biden. But it looks like they could have very low turnout, which won't look good. And since New Hampshire is still going to go first because it's in their state law and Biden isn't on that ticket, it could be he loses New Hampshire and then has a poor showing in South Carolina. And that is just going to be embarrassing. Now, so if these stats aren't bad enough for Biden, you would think that, this was a New York Times Siena poll. You would think that they would throw in some good news for him. And no, they did not. They absolutely did not. Because if you swap out Trump for DeSantis or Nikki Haley, for Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley, with DeSantis is up 5 in Arizona. They are tied in Georgia, tied in Michigan. DeSantis is up 1 in Nevada, up 2 in Pennsylvania, and up 4 in Wisconsin. So he's up 4, much closer than they are with Trump. And tied in 2, but he's not down. Trump is down in Wisconsin. And with Haley's up 7 in Arizona, 3 in Georgia, 10 in Michigan, 10 in Pennsylvania, and 13 in Wisconsin. 13 points in Wisconsin, which is absolutely insane that it's 13 points in Wisconsin. This is some of the absolute worst news that Biden could possibly have gotten. And the only way that these numbers are getting better for Democrats is if you take Biden off of the ticket. Kamala Harris is polling better than Biden at this moment in these states, in these 6 battleground states. Overall, probably not. But in these 6 battleground states, if you have Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket and not Joe Biden, she polls better than Biden. Right now, the DNC is in a dumpster fire, and the only thing that is possibly potentially saving them is that the Republicans are also in a dumpster fire. They can't figure out who's going to be Speaker of the House. They can't figure out who's going to be Speaker of the House. They can't figure out who the leader in their presidential nomination selections isn't showing up for debates and has 7 different trials going on at this present moment. Granted, I think that a lot of them, like the one that's going on in New York, is a bunch of crap. But there are a few out there that are legitimate. The documents one here in Florida, I believe, is a legitimate trial. Where a lot of things also change is the numbers between Biden and Trump switch if Trump ends up getting convicted in any of the trials. If he gets convicted in one of them, a lot of those numbers change. So you're looking at a scenario. You're looking at a scenario where you just told a bunch of people who don't want to see Trump, become president again, that if he's found guilty, all you have to do is convict him. Or if he's found guilty and you guys, all you have to do is convict him in order to get there, he won't be the next president. But that also does leave the option open for another Republican to come in to save the day, to be at the top of the ticket, which then would still put Biden in a terrible, terrible position. Now, the only way, but if you put literally any other Democrat in there, all of that changes. Literally a random Democrat, a generic Democrat from wherever United States does better than Joe Biden in these polls. And you are going to have people out there who are going to say, well, polls don't matter. Hillary Clinton was leading in the polls all the way up till election day in 2016. But that doesn't matter, because these are people that will cite poll after poll after poll if it says what they want it to say. The fact that these polls are saying this about Biden goes to show how little faith a lot of people in swing states have with Biden. And they're going to try to spin it that has to do with how he's doing in foreign policy. And I don't think it's foreign policy. I think what everybody is looking at, what I'm looking at mainly anyway, and I think that most people are looking at it the way that I look at it, is, gas is $3.50 a gallon. I went to the grocery store yesterday, picked up 6 things, and I spent $60. Inflation, they say that inflation's going down, is still up from, year over year, but it's going down from the peak of 7% or whatever it was last year, which still means that we're just looking at 9% inflation from 2 years ago. But they've also changed the numbers, so the index number is different. And I'm just shooting from the hip here at this point, because none of this is in the notes. And I think people are looking at how much money is going out the door versus how much money is coming in, and that is what's going to make this decision. It's not going to be because Biden doesn't support a ceasefire in Israel. That is not what's making this decision. The decision is how much money people have in the bank. And the less money people have in the bank and the more people that are living paycheck to paycheck, that is going to hurt Biden. He is the face of Bidenomics. He named it Bidenomics because he knew that he wanted to be the face of that. And now people go, okay, well, the fact that the economy sucks, which a lot of it has to do with Trump, with the Republicans, with a lot of the stuff that happened during Corona. It goes back further with Obama, George Bush, and the fact that we blew out spending. A lot of that is what we are paying for now. These are the sins of the Father that we are paying for today. But Biden now has that. He's the face of it. He is the face of the reason of why the economy is where it is and why everything costs so much and why we have less money in the bank. That is what is causing this in these 5-6 swing states. So putting any other Democrat in there would be good, but Democrats will continue to go down with the ship. Like I said, the Democrats and the Republicans are on the Titanic. They're a ship going down. They're a ship going down, and people are just polishing the brass. They're playing the instruments while the ship is going down, and that is the best that they can do. And that is all that they are hoping for. So keep an eye out for all of that. That it's going to be a wild. It is going to be just an absolutely wild election season. We don't know if Joe Biden's going to be there. We don't know if Trump's going to be there. So the question that I have for y'all today, question of the day, if it's not Biden, because obviously he is not polling well. So if it's not Biden, who is it going to be? Who is it going to be? I personally, if I was betting, it's Michelle Obama. But that's kind of a dark horse bet. But yeah, if I'm betting, it's Michelle Obama. But most people are they're going to point to the California governor, the rejected diehard villain, Gavin Newsom, and he seems to be he's the most likely. I think my money would still be on Michelle Obama. And so what do you guys, who do you guys think it's going to be? And second, if it is Gavin Newsom, do you think he's going to be making a good run for it? Will he be able to drive for it, or will he stumble? It's just so weird how he hugs that kid and spanks him at the end of that clip. Every time I watch it, I'm just like, what is wrong with you, man? What is wrong with you? So yeah, let me know who you think it's going to be, who's going to be the Democrat nominee. If it's not Biden, I think there's a relatively decent chance that it is Biden. But if it's not Biden, who do you think it's going to be? Now, big news yesterday. Huge news. Huge. It was huge. Biggest news. It was big news. Steven Crowder of Louder with Crowder fame. Louder with Crowder with Dave. Yesterday, he had an exclusive, and it was huge news because it was something that many people have been calling for since March, 7 months later. And I believe that I still have the notes that I have from yesterday where we talk about whether or not it's real. Since I wrote these notes, since I wrote the notes for it, a lot has changed. It has been confirmed that these are real. The Nashville Police Department did confirm that these are real, and they are investigating how they got leaked. And that's a big thing. That I swear, I think it would be easier to be a Republican in this scenario, because, man, the things that you can just bash. The things that you can bash. I was listening to Ben Shapiro earlier today, and he was talking about, he mentioned these, and obviously we all know that Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder, a little bit of a history there. But he was talking about the Nashville shooter, and he parlayed that so smoothly into talking about Israel and Gaza without missing a breath. It was absolutely incredible. But it would be easier to be a conservative, talking about this, as opposed to somebody who is looking at every aspect of it. So, as we all know, back in March, a woman walked into the Covenant School in Nashville, Tennessee, and murdered 6 kids. Audrey Hale, sometimes Aiden Hale, depending on when you were looking at it, what you were looking at, went in, murdered him. The news came out later that Audrey Hale had recently announced that she was trans online and was going by the name Aiden. And so the media was having this issue with, do we call her Audrey? Do we call her Aiden? Do we call her he? Do we call him her? They weren't really sure. And now the media is pretty much saying she, because that's what the family prefers, which It doesn't seem like that's the law anywhere in the U.S. anymore, but okay. Personally, I think that if you go in and you murder 6 children, you don't deserve my respect. So, she's Audrey Hale to me. So Audrey Hale goes into the school, murders 6 people, murders 6 children, and national news. Everybody was shocked by this. And the news broke shortly after that Audrey had written a manifesto. And everybody was kind of waiting to hear what was in that manifesto. And then they said, no, we're not going to put it out. We're not going to put out the manifesto. So that started the speculation on why wouldn't you put this out? And of course they were saying things like, okay, well, we want to make sure that, we don't want copycats. We don't want people reading the manifesto and then trying to emulate what Audrey had envisioned for, her great plan. And granted, apparently there are thousands of pages of this manifesto, and three were released. And when they asked Crowder why he only released 3, he said, because they were the only 3 I had. But you get a really good idea of what's in there. And apparently if you show the video, you can't find the video on Google of Crowder doing it. The only place you can really find it is on X or on Rumble. You can't find it on Facebook. You can't find it on YouTube. And if anybody shared those images on Facebook or shared the video on Facebook, even in Messenger, I don't know how true this is. It was deleted and accounts were banned for doing it. And that's what I've heard. I don't know if that's true. But we're here on Rumble, so we're gonna show some of the images. So we'll find out. I don't think Rumble's gonna do anything, and ever since the viewership kind of changed on me, I don't think anybody's coming after me anyway. So one of the ones that I found interesting was the schedule that Audrey Hale made for the day. Now, as you can see, it says here, Death Day, 6:30, desired. Now, I don't know anybody that plans out any day like this, but this is an amazing calendar for a day's events. And it just kind of shows you, exactly how twisted somebody would have to be in order to plan out the murder of multiple people to this great of detail. But so 6:30, wake up, desired, or 6:30 desired for wake up. 7 a.m. get dressed. 7:05, 8:55 a.m. It says something with stuffed animals and possessions. It's covered, if you're listening on audio, it's covered by a sticky note that says lunch may be around 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. I think it says spend time with stuffed animals and possessions, which that should be able to say a lot about who this person is, because one of the first things that they wanted to do was spend time with their possessions, not with people, not with actual animals, not with their mom, their dad, not with friends, but instead she wanted to spend time with her possessions. And I think that's what that says. Like, I don't know, but that is what I would, if I could see under that Post-it note, I would place all the money in the world that says spend time with stuffed animals and possessions. And then eat breakfast at home with a heart around it, which, okay, she has a warm spot for home. 9:30, pack up special belongings and backpacks. 9:50, test knife for glass breaker, and then in parentheses, dad's old cars. At 10 a.m., leave for Royal Range, 19 to 20 minutes. At 10:20, gear up and set up guns in trunk, in parentheses, assembles, and get out vest with mags inside. At 11:20, final videotape, 10 minutes. And this is actually a very interesting aspect of it, because where is that tape? Where is that video? If she recorded that video, that is going to be the greatest insight into what she was thinking right before she went in and murdered a bunch of children. That video has not been released. That video hasn't been released. There's not been a transcript of that video. Nobody really knows what is on that video, but that video is out there somewhere. That video is out there somewhere, and it's just a matter of, will it ever be released? And now that this stuff has been released, I can see mounting pressure for Nashville police to release this information. At 11:55, leave for Covenant School at 12, or 11:35, sorry, leave for Covenant School at 12 p.m., arrive at Covenant, check parking lot for security. At 12:05, arrive in designated parking space. This is another weird one, because what did she mean by a designated parking space? Was it the visitor parking space? Was it the parking space that was in the back? What was the designated parking space? Because why would she have had a designated, like, wouldn't it just be park in a parking space? Why a designated one? It was just something like it rubbed me wrong, and I don't want to go down a conspiracy theory kind of thing, but that's kind of where I was at with it. 12:05 to 12:10, prepare for attack. 12, I can't really see what that one says because it's kind of smudged over. Lock and load all weapons. 12:37, open fire towards entrance. And then under that, I can't read what it says underneath 12:37 because it's covered in a shadow. And then it says time to die. Time to die. This person had their day planned out to the minute, all the way down the line, knowing that they were going to murder a bunch of children, which absolutely terrible, terrifying, terrible. The fact that anybody could wake up that day and have those thoughts and be that ready to go and murder a bunch of children. Can get going to the five. This isn't a laughing matter, but going to the 5D on Rumble just pulled one of the all-time greatest Norm joke quotes. They sound like a real jerk. That's good, man. Going to the 5D, that is, oh God, that was so inappropriately timed, but God, that was funny. Well done. So the next piece that they announced was a piece of writing that at the top was scrawled Death Day. It was Death Day, and it was actually on March 27th, 2023. This is the day that this happened, and Audrey wrote this on this day. It says, "Today is the day. The day has finally come. I can't believe it's here. I don't know how I was able to get this far, but here I am. I am a little nervous, but excited too. Been excited for the past 2 weeks. There were several times I could have been caught, especially back in the summer of 2021. Back in the summer of 2021. And that, I'm curious as to what happened back in the summer of 2021. Maybe if they would release, because again, apparently there are thousands of pages of diaries and journals and things like that. If you could find out what happened in the summer of 2021, you can kind of see where a breakdown happened, where people would have been able to point to it and be like, no, something could have been done here. But again, they haven't released any of it, and they aren't releasing any of it. And we can speculate all day on why. We know why they aren't releasing it, and it's not for the reasons that they're saying. But if we could find out why, She was worried about getting caught in the summer of 21. We might have a better clarity on what was going through Audrey's head. Then none of that matters now. I'm almost an hour and 7 minutes away, which that is a really specific time to almost be. Like, why not just say I'm an hour and 8 minutes away? Can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm ready. I hope my victims aren't. My only fear is if anything goes wrong, I'll do my best to prevent any of the sort. God, let my wrath take over my anxiety. It might be 10 minutes tops. It might be 3 to 7. It's gonna go quick. I hope I have a high death count. Ready to die, Aiden. Ready to die, Aiden. And one of the things a lot of people are looking at here, my only fear is if anything goes wrong, I'll do my best to prevent any of the sort. God, let my wrath take over my anxiety. The amount of anger and hatred that is inside of this person speaks absolute volumes onto where this person was mentally. And obviously this person was not mentally well. You don't do this if you are mentally well. You absolutely don't do things like this if you are okay mentally. So this person was not good mentally. They sound like a real jerk. So they were ready and they were saying, let my wrath take over my anxiety. She knew that it was going to be quick. It was 10 minutes tops. It might be 3 to 7. This person knew pretty much the average call time for the police, and what it was going to take for them to come in and stop her from doing what she was doing. So sorry, my puppy has decided that I have been here too long now. So she knew what she was doing. She knew absolutely what was going on, and she was ready to go in there and murder multiple children. The question is why, and the only thing that was released that kind of pointed to why was the manifesto poem, as I've called it, from February. That she wrote on February 3rd of 2023, and I'm just going to read it as it's written. Kill those kids, those crackers, going to private fancy schools with those fancy khakis and sports backpacks, with their daddy's Mustangs and convertibles. Fuck you, little shits. I wish to shoot you weak ass dicks with your mop yellow hair. Want to kill all you little crackers, bunch of little faggots with your white privileges. Fuck you, faggots. Which that is just a weird thing for me to be reading out loud from somebody that's a member of the LGBTQ community. I could understand if that was somebody who voted for Trump. But, as Going to the 5D said, they sound like a real jerk. A lot of the anger you see is pointed at white privilege, being white. And this was absolutely it was by the definition of hate crime, even though I don't believe in hate crime. I don't think that there is such a thing as hate crime. This was a hate crime based on the definition that they have come up with it. This was a race-based crime. She was going after them because they were white and for their white privilege, without looking at the hypocrisy that she went to that school. She also went to that school. So obviously there's a lot of self-hatred going on there. Now, after she murdered the 6 people and then the police came in. I think that there were a lot of idiots that came out on both sides, because you can just call out people for being terrible people. You can say, no, what this person did was evil. It doesn't matter that they were trans. And I believe that what that person did, what Audrey Hale did, was evil. I don't care that Audrey was trans. On the opposite side of it, when you had the people marching in the in the Tennessee State House in Nashville, saying there were 7 victims that day, no, there weren't. There was more than 7 victims. There were the parents of all of the students that were murdered were also victims. The friends of all the people were also victims. But you know who? She was not a victim. She knew what she was doing. She went in there to die. She wrote it down. She said, today is the day that I'm going to die. Time to die. She had it scheduled almost at the exact minute that it happened. She knew what she was doing. She was not a victim. She created victims. Nothing about Audrey Hale was a victim on that day. And if things about Audrey Hale before that day made her a victim, then she should have done something about that then and not walked into a school and murdered a bunch of children. And she's angry at in the poem she wrote. Hang on a second, I gotta pull it back up here. In the poem, she said, "With those fancy khakis and sports backpacks, which sure, okay, it's a private school, so there's probably a uniform, and that's where the khakis are. With their mommies, or with their, it starts saying mommies, and then it crosses out, and then it says, with their daddies, Mustangs, and convertibles. These are children who can't drive. They aren't driving their mommies and daddies, Mustangs, and convertibles. They might be riding there in them, but they aren't driving them. They are children. They were kids. They didn't have licenses. And you walked in and you murdered them because of some self-hatred that you obviously had, mixed with whatever rejections you were going with, and you figured the best way to do it, and the fact that you were angry with the fact that you went to that school, with the fact that you were white, and the fact that you grew up with some semblance of privilege because you did, based on your own logic, you went in and you murdered a bunch of people knowing that the cops were going to come in and kill you. You did a suicide by cop by taking out children, and that makes you one of the most evil people to have walked the earth. And you're getting a massive amount of people who are shielding you just because you are part of a oppressed class, because you are claiming now, shortly before this happened, that you are trans. And it's just got it's got to piss off a lot of people that the parents are going, no, she was a she. And I don't care. Like, if she murdered 6 kids. Like, she doesn't get the respect that she deserves, but that other people believe that she deserves. She's a she. Yeah, I was gonna say, it's weird that she called them crackers, and that's like really bizarre. And she's talking about the driving of the cars, and she killed kids. But then the Nashville, and so I was like, is this stuff real, or is Crowder getting, punked in a way? But then the Nashville police pretty much said, yeah, no, that's real, and we don't know how it got out. So yeah. Your Ben Shapiro's, your Crowder's, your anybody on the right is going to sit there and they're going to say, if this was the Buffalo shooter or the any other shooter, they had a manifesto and it was a white supremacist manifesto, and that stuff would hit the news. So why didn't they want to put this out? And the people on the left, they're going to say, we don't want to put it out because we don't want copycats. We don't want anybody emulating this person or, what they did. And I can see both sides of that. I can absolutely see both sides of it. But the right would say we shouldn't release this stuff if it's somebody who's on the right, they're going to say we shouldn't release this stuff because we don't want anybody copying it. And we need to look at it as a mental health problem. And when it's somebody on the right, the people on the left are going, no, look, this isn't a mental health problem. This is something wrong with the people on the right. Now the people on the right are saying, look, it's something wrong with the trans movement. It's something wrong with this idea, this leftist ideology of, using white privilege and, hating white culture and this trans ideology. And that's what the problem is. And both sides are arguing the exact same argument against each other when the issue truly 100% is it's a mental health issue. It is absolutely a mental health issue, and it is absolutely just a case of pure evil. Like, people can just be evil. And trying, like, one of the dads of the school, whose name I'm blanking on at this moment, one of the dads of the kids at the school whose child survived. So, God bless that. His child survived, but he has become the mouthpiece of the people at the school. And he's all angry at Crowder for releasing it. And he's saying, oh, nobody should see this. He is fighting for red flag laws and stricter gun control. Stricter gun control would not have saved any of the children at that school. The issue that school had was it was a breakdown in security. I don't have all the notes in front of me. I covered it pretty extensively back in March in one of the last shows that I did before I took my hiatus. But it was a breakdown in security. And nobody was there to stop this kid. And the reason that Audrey picked that school was because security was lax. There was a couple of targets she was thinking about picking, and she picked that school because of how lax the security was. She knew where to go. She was going to be able to get those guns, because when people want to do evil, they can still find the means to do it. A lot of people hate it when I make this argument, but for my entire life, drugs have been illegal. And I know that when I wanted to find them, I could. And people are like, oh, well, weed should be legal. Yeah, I agree. So should heroin. They should all be legal. It should all be legal, but it never has been. Well, weed kind of is now, I guess. But I don't use weed. I don't smoke anymore or eat it or anything else. But I've always been able to find it. If I wanted cocaine, I knew exactly where to go to find cocaine. If I wanted heroin, I knew where to go to get heroin. If I wanted X, if I wanted ketamine, if I wanted MDMA, if I wanted whatever, I knew where to go to get it, and it was illegal. Right now, I could make one phone call, and I could find pretty much any drug that I wanted here. And I haven't done drugs in a very, very, very long time. If somebody wants to find something illegal, they're going to find it. All you're doing by saying, oh, well, we need these red flag laws, or we need these, is taking the guns out of innocent people's hands. You are creating scenarios where there can be more mass murders. And the fact that he's sitting there going, oh, well, we don't want anybody doing this. We don't want anybody doing this. And we just want to make sure that nobody else has to deal with any sort of scenario like this. The way that you stop scenarios like this is by making sure that people are well trained with firearms and able to protect themselves. Now, obviously, you can't ask that of 6-year-olds, but you can ask that of security guards. You can ask that of teachers. You can ask that of guardians of any kind. But to say that you don't want people to find out about what was written in the manifesto because you're afraid of copycats, you're going to get copycats anyway. You had a bunch of people who were angry that instead of saying that they were saying 6 victims instead of 7 victims because Audrey died. You're going to get copycats, people who are angry that Audrey wasn't seen. It's going to happen. No matter what the ideology is, you're going to get copycats. Releasing the manifesto, and whichever side you're on, either release manifestos or don't release manifestos, but make that the blanket across the board. Because the right if somebody on the right commits a mass shooting, the left is going to say, see, this is a problem with the right. And now the right is saying, no, see, this is a problem with the left. It's just dividing people further. So either release them or don't release them, but make that the blanket across the board for everybody. It's a horrendous thing. I applaud Crowder for releasing it. I do think that we have a right to read these things. I do think we have a right to read these things. I hope that something is figured out in some way. Something can be stopped in the future. I do think that it is fishy in a few different ways that they didn't want to release this one, that this was the one they said, oh no, we can't release it. And is it because it was all white? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, that I am like way over on time. I was not planning on going a full hour, even close to it. I really thought I wrote a half hour's worth of notes. But hey, it feels good to be back, everybody. Thank you all who hung in with me for that full hour. I love each and every one of you. I will be back next week. I'll be back next week. If you, tomorrow night, GOP-ageddon 3, GOP-ageddon 3, I believe it starts at 8 o'clock if you're celebrating. I will probably be watching it. I'm not going to be streaming it, obviously, because me doing a live debate stream by myself sounds kind of boring. But yeah. Hope you all are having a great week. Hope you have a great rest of your week. I will see you all next week for a brand new episode of Muddied Waters of Freedom. And until then, remember, where we are going, we don't need roads.